Ladies and gents, welcome to our second upper day. So, this one is exclusively antagonist paired sets with a triset to finish, starting off with this Atlantis inclined press. My god, this thing is beautiful. All right, it is probably one of my favorite chest press machines ever. I can get such a great stretch. The neutral grips actually hit my chest, which is something that I haven't experienced before. Typically, for me, a neutral grip is all triceps, but I can really take this thing to the cleaners. So, case in point here, this final rep, that would have been a failed rep on dumbbells, on a bench, anything. But because this resistance profile, I can just leverage the absolute shit out of that top and bottom peg. Paired with that is this new tech narrow neutral pull down. And this thing feels sick, by the way. I haven't used a lot of new tech stuff, but this machine right here is bloody awesome. The curve that the handles go through feels really nice. I can get a nice big stretch at the top. Again, same as the Olympus single arm pull down. I want to keep my upper back a little bit rounded because that gives my lats the most leverage and gives them the best stimulus. As always, though, allowing fatigue to drive what my range of motion looks like. So that's my first kind of half rep there. Pretty sure I go for another one. And that's that. That's us done. 3 sets of both of them before we move on to the prime dip machine. And this thing is fucking spectacular. Now, to make it more chest focused, I lean way forward, as you can see, almost at like a 45 degree, in trying to get a full range of motion and think about performing a dip as if I would normally. I'm not trying to think about extending my arms. I'm thinking about getting my chest to the sky. That's the biggest tip that I can give anyone using this machine. Of course, on cam setting 5, really emphasizing that deep stretch position, but also that sort of mid-range too. And this I like to run anywhere between 8 to 12 reps. That feels the best. From there, rest 60 seconds before moving on to the good old-fashioned chest supported row from Prime. And I like to hold this in like a semi-supinated, semi-pronated is probably the best way to say it, handle, with a really big emphasis on that top peg. Now, I find this machine has a ridiculous bias when you load that top peg. Like at the very short position, not much going on. At the lengthened position, there is everything going on. So that's why I do sort of like a 60 40, 70 30 split. But the key thing here is just pure scapular traction, looking to get a lot out of my traps, even a little bit of a shruggy action I also go for. And I just, again, allow fatigue to dictate what my range of motion looks like. So from here, I'll try to drive back, drive back, drive back. The biggest thing here is driving my elbows as far back as I can, really trying to fight it as much as I can. And all these reps here, say I was using a different machine, I would have stopped long ago because I couldn't finish a rep. But that's us there, allowing fatigue to dictate when I finish. Our next antagonist paired set, good old-fashioned crucifix cable lateral raise. This exercise I think I've done for the past 2 years, and it has still felt the best in terms of delt exercises that I've done outside of like a single arm lateral raise. The thing that I need to get better at is, you watch my left arm, that elbow bends a bit too much. I want to do my best to keep my arm as straight as I can, because that's going to allow me to get the most stimulus from my delts. But this one I run like a 10 to 15 rep set. I went a bit too heavy on this initial set here. But again, still take it to the cleaners. And once I'm done, resting about 60 seconds before going over and doing a medium neutral seated row. Now, this might sound a bit redundant, but if you'll notice in the way that I'm pulling I really flare my elbows and I'm pulling almost like to my collarbone here, maybe a little bit below, probably more like nipple height. But flaring the elbows, this is more rear delt focused, upper trap focused, just trying to build that upper shelf because that's where I am lacking a little bit in my physique. And I want to close that gap the best that I can. Especially through my rear double, I noticed that my traps were a bit small. So building that up the best I can. And that's actually a 4-set paired set. So 4 sets of lateral raises and 4 sets of that sort of rear delt seated row. From there though, it's just arms and abs. So back supported Bayesian curl. I do enjoy this movement, but I actually find I get a lot more stimulus from dumbbells. So this will more than likely get swapped out once I make the move to Queensland. And as you can see, just really emphasizing keeping my elbow in the same position, allowing biceps to do the work, keeping my arms back, and of course, taking it to the cleaners the best that I can before putting the weights back down. Now, this variation to an overhead tricep extension, I have found to be absolutely immense. So I'm actually sitting on my heels in like a Japanese samurai pose, you could call it. But more importantly, it's allowed me to get a really, really good stretch through my triceps and just rinse them for everything that they're worth. This I can actually run in a fairly low rep range. So I run this anywhere from like typically 8 to 12 reps, but I run it as low as 6. And you'll notice here on the way up, I allow my elbows to flare, but on the way down, I try to get them nice and close. And this is the last rep there. Using this strap as well, it is absolute money. Absolute money. And you'll notice I'm in a really extended position, which I find gets me the best stretch that I can. And we finish with an OG, actually. Good old fashioned hanging leg raises. Now, I'm doing my best to not make this really hip flexory. The thing that I'm focusing on is getting my sternum and my pelvis closer together rather than just flinging my legs up, although that's what it looks like. But I do Bayesian curl, overhead tricep extension, and hanging leg raise together because they're quick, simple. I go for a short walk around the gym and come back and do it all over again. But that's what my second upper session looks like. So really leveraging time efficient training to get all this work in. Otherwise, I'll be in the gym for way too long. And I want to progress. So this is doing what's required. But thank you for tuning in, team. I'll be here next Friday with a new episode. Take care, and I'll talk to you then.